Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. And today we have the incandescent Vicky Poole, whose hair has almost grown back to its normal length. Beautifully resplendent as she is, lipstick and all. And as ever, she is imbibing me and imbuing me with knowledge about the whole procurement and also the tender response process. But today we're talking about doing something I didn't know you could do. How to challenge a procurement. Wow. So this is at the point where the tender's already been agreed.
Yep.
You've gone through, you come at the other side, you hit the kickoff meeting.
No. It's before that. So
right.
So the tender's been released by the council, everyone's done their response, the response has been evaluated. The council has said, I want to award to many purple hats. And you say, yay. Well, you're saying, yay. Everyone else is saying, no. It's that kind of like cringeworthy moment, you know, the Star Wars, that no moment. So if you feel that the procurement has been flawed, you can respond to it and you can challenge it in two ways. And you can challenge the procurement, and
this has actually happened in the past. This is a real thing. This is not just come out of your imagination.
No. I've done it. I have been, I'm very glad that I've changed my name when I got married, because otherwise I think I still would have been referred to as Battle Axe Bland. My maiden name was Bland. Because I have done this on 3 procurements and have been successful in 3 procurements of having the procurement squashed. I was particularly annoyed. So the same.
Hang on, does that then cancel the tender?
It does, and it has to come all back out again.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So this really is. It's not. It can force the procurement to come back out. You can force Crown Commercial Services to step in and review it, and you can cause wider ripples within the community. About.
Can I have a story, please?
A story. Oh wow!
Change the names to protect the innocent.
Change the names to protect the innocent. Jesus, I'm not entirely sure I can do that. So for everyone, let's go through the 2 different options, right? So you can either challenge the procurement in itself, in which case the procurement has been flawed. So either, because when you raise clarification questions, you can raise them as general or raise them as privileged, in which case you get your own reply, like your own response. You can argue that sensitive information that was unique to you had been shared publicly and therefore you had lost your commercial advantage. I've done that one. You can complain that a supplier has had an unfair advantage. So, and I've done this one as well. And the example that I bring here, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail, is where a senior member of the supplier, the awarder, the preferred supplier, has a position of power at the council.
Oh, hang on. That's the equivalent of either insider trading or.
Yep.
Oh goodness, that's terrible, actually.
So within all councils, we'll talk about this in a bit more detail as well, but not right now. I'm going to go through the options. So within all councils, you have people who can be elected, such as myself. So I'm elected to a council, and you can argue that these people, when we attend meetings as elected members, all of the meetings that we attend are visible to the public. Now, there are some meetings that elected members do, and there are some committees where they invite suppliers in to talk about particular items. So, for example, if I was to be invited in to West Berkshire Council, and if I was to be awarded a tender for consulting to help SMEs to improve their chances of winning bids, that would be conflict of interest in so many different ways. Not only is it my business that I do and that I was awarded the tender, but I'm also an elected member to that council. So there's so many different
complete conflict of interest.
Exactly. So in the previous life, I used to work in telecoms, and there are technology steering groups where they talk about critical national infrastructure. and the awarding company for a particular bid that I had coveted for many years and I was going for. I spent 18 months on this bid across 2 different companies, believe it or not, because I took the bid with me from one company to the next. The person present talking about critical national infrastructure was the chief exec and the CTO, 2 of them, of a tier 1 telco provider who happened to be awarded that contract. So as you can imagine, I challenged that procurement. So you've got the challenge in the actual formals of the procurement, and then you're actually challenging the supplier as if to say, well, that's you've awarded 10 marks out of 10, and the reason why that supplier got 10 marks is because they included some random bits of information that no bugger else would have known. And I've got this right now with one of the tenders that we've done recently, where the awarding criteria, where you pick up the marks, nowhere in their tender documentation do they make reference to this. Hence why we're talking about this today.
So hang on, don't you ever end up with a horse's head on your pillow or something from the?
Yes, it tastes wonderful with a little bit of red wine and garlic.
Sure it does. Sure it does. All right, cool. So this is crazy because this is, and these are public figures who are also involved in the. So it doesn't seem right.
So let's get down to brass tacks. So the public sector equates to, well, there was £2 billion worth of contracts last year. Government and public, they are the biggest contributor to the UK economy. And most importantly, because that's not important, most importantly, they are the biggest contributor to the UK economy. They are spending public money. So what you pay in your NI and your tax, this is the money that they're talking about spending here, regardless of whether it's paper clips, technology, laptops, softwares, consultancy. It's all public money. So if there is ever any question about how that money is spent, it's reviewed quite seriously. And the guidance that always comes out is you have to err on the side of caution, which is why the procurement teams at councils are so critical, because they get it in the neck on so many days about process, and they understand Crown Commercial Services processes. The new Procurement Act, so we had Procurement Act 2023 and we've got another one this year. They include more rigor and more regulations in order to make procurement more strict and more straight down the line, so that everyone knows exactly what they can do and what they can't do. Now, that's not to say that suppliers won't be able to challenge procurements in the future, because of course you can. If I'm responding to a bid and I get a whiff of many purple hats going out for a cup of coffee with the portfolio holder for digital services and transformation at West Berkshire Council. That's me, by the way. I'm going to be telling my client about this if I get a whiff about it, because all of these meetings are public information, and it's anything to do with giving one supplier an advantage. Now, how do you challenge an active procurement or a completed procurement? You have to raise it during the Alcatel period. It's no point complaining 6 months after the contract signed. It has to be done during the standstill period. And you have to be very explicit with why you're challenging it. So I would like to challenge the procurement for the award of many purple hats.
Right.
Because I am aware that ABC happened. Can you demonstrate to me, beyond I forget the right language here. I'll have Tourette's in a second and it'll come out. Beyond reasonable doubt. There we go. Gareth's laughing at me because he knows I'm terrible with stuff like this. Can you demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt that there was no dialogue and there was no information shared about this particular procurement? Was the meeting witnessed by an independent officer? Is another good one. Oh. Yeah. Because one could argue that meeting notes can be doctored. Oh, we'll just not minute the fact that we've talked about this tender, Gareth. That just won't be in there. Whereas if it's documented and there was a meeting present with an officer of the council, it would have to be minuted regardless. And you can have things, every topic that's there, it is lined item to say that topics about LinkedIn marketing was discussed, but it won't say what it was or what the tender was or any of the detail, but it'll have to be minuted that things were discussed from the officer's side. That's available as public information if one was so inclined to ask it. Alrighty. Right. So you have to be very specific. At that point, the procurement will then go on pause. So they will try desperately, so the council will try desperately to answer and resolve all those questions within the 14-day Alcatel standstill period. But if at that point, it's agreed that there hasn't been, that there's no proof beyond a doubt, it then gets formally challenged and Crown Commercial Services step in.
Wow. So it gets pretty heavy duty at that stage.
Pretty heavy duty. So let's very quickly run through some examples. So when I worked in corporate, I worked in telecoms, and there was a consortium of councils who grouped together, and this is very common, who grouped together to buy certain services. So they grouped together to buy bid writing services. And within the commercial response, there was, we talked about this last week, where you have the rate card of services, how many widgets at what price. And then you've got over here, you've got like the what happens in certain scenarios, and you can adjust those numbers. Well, one of the questions in there, I have been very creative with the response. It was zero cost to me, but you had to include a cost to the client. And the client had scripted a question that could only have come from someone with a telecoms background because it referenced certain protocols that happen on routers. So for those of you who don't know how mobile phones or how routers work or like all the nitty-gritties, unless you're really, really technically trained, you don't necessarily know which particular line item, which iOS, which is the operating system, or things to reference. This clarification question had come through to me and said, with regards to tab 2 of the pricing matrix, can you confirm that blah, 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 and is included in the price? If not, it needs to be adjusted. Well, those prices are regulated by the manufacturer. So this was an ultimate gotcha. So and it was a cost that I had to bear rather than a cost that I had to pass on to the client. So I was taking my cost and my price and not lining them up line for line item. The question that came to me forced me to match them up line by line, which then meant that instead of scoring 40 out of 40 on the price, I scored 37 out of 40 on the price, and the supplier won. So I challenged the procurement. I got told that they could ask any question to clarify the bid. I went back to them and said, demonstrate to me beyond reasonable doubt. And they said, no, we won't. I said, well, great. So as I know that this MD and this CTO from this company, who is the awarder, was present at this meeting where none of the items were discussed, there was no reference and and Crown Commercial Services stepped in and pulled the procurement.
Did you get any slightly miffed emails? Death threats?
I didn't. I got told I was brave. Because well, the letter that I sent in is usually signed by the MD of the company. I had offered for me to sign it because it was me as the business development director rather than the company. And funnily enough, I have never been invited to present or to be part of this particular company. As it so happens, and by complete coincidence, all of the procurements that I've ever challenged have been contracts that have been awarded to the same supplier. I know. By complete coincidence, it's for no other reason than it was I felt it was unfair. Another procurement.
We get feeling it was unfair. It bloody was unfair.
It was unfair. Another previous procurement, I had found evidence to the fact that the supplier, the incumbent supplier, had their new business development team attend a service meeting.
Right.
You can't have a new business development team attending a service meeting for an in-life service contract.
No.
And I found under freedom of information, I found that there was items that were discussed through the minutes, and this project had actually been awarded and signed, and Crown Commercial Services stepped in and said that they couldn't do that because it was minuted. So this is the value of council officers.
I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised, you know, black cars following you wherever you go, man. It's crazy stuff. All right, well, look, guys, as ever, an education. I would suggest if any of you guys are thinking about the fact that you feel that it's been unfair. Oh gosh, she's got a point to make. Carry on, Vicky.
Sorry. So if anyone feels like that they've been subject to an unfair procurement and you're still in your Alcatel period, your standstill period, drop me a line, drop me a WhatsApp. I'm sure Gareth will put my number across the bottom. This is our team number. We've got a team of consultants ready on hand to answer any questions. If you have something that you'd rather talk about to me in person, I'm going to be at the GB Shared Expo next week in Wigan, which is in the Greater Manchester area. I'm the keynote speaker. I'm there. A couple of members of the team are there. There's definitely one of us there because me and one other. Come and grab us. We're very easily bought with coffee. And you can come and try your luck to the key of success.
Wow.
For more information about what that is, you have to come to the expo. I'll pop a link to the where you can get your free tickets below, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Until then, thank you all for watching. As ever, we tend to be here weekly talking about all things tender response. But until then, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Let's hope the sun holds out. And, of course, look after that precious mental health. Bye-bye now.
Bye now. Have a lovely